Good morning, everyone. Welcome to News Center's Political Brew. Once again, reaching out remotely to John Richardson and Phil Harriman. Gentlemen, good morning to you both. Good to see sunny, happy backdrops on your
Good
Zoom
morning.
Anticipating August.
It's only Easter, Phil. You've got a little ways to go. Let's begin. Here in Maine, we get our daily briefings about the coronavirus crisis from the director of the CDC, and Governor Mills only attends when she has some big announcement to make about an executive order, that sort of thing. Sometimes, now we have President Trump every day meeting with reporters at the White House, sometimes not even letting his medical experts answer questions that reporters ask. I guess the question, Phil, is President Trump really showing leadership here, or is he just grandstanding?
Well, I think early on it was leadership. I thought it was very remarkable at the command of the details and logistics and forecasting that he was offering. I thought that was very soothing for the American people. But now I feel that he's gone too far. This has now turned into a daily press conference couched in the name of an update on the virus. I think it's time for him to step back out of the picture and let us just focus on the solution to this virus that has infected us.
John, what's your take?
I think it's a political event, and I think it's very apparent to people in America that it's about politics, and he's not letting the experts really explain to us in ways that we would understand. He's not doing that, and that's unfortunate. I do agree with Phil that initially it was very helpful and calming to the public, but now it's turned into a bit of a bazaar.
Now, John, we've heard rumblings from more than a few Mainers about the restrictions that have been imposed by state government, executive orders from Governor Mills, that some will ask puts us under a form of martial law here in Maine, with government taking away constitutional freedoms. Now, the governor has acknowledged it is extraordinary to restrict people's freedoms in this way, but I guess this comes down to a question of individual liberty versus the common good, right?
This is about public safety versus independent rights. I think the governor's taking the right tone in this matter, and I don't think anybody's going to be arrested unless, of course, they violate social distancing. If they do that, then it's going to be a real problem because they're now putting me and you and others at risk by doing so. So I think she's hit the right stride and the right tone on this.
What do you think, John? Phil, is that are we under martial law here, or is it that an exaggeration?
No, I don't think it's an exaggeration. I do think it is martial law, but it's voluntary. And people are complying because they want to. Where I think we may be venturing too far is when you hear about the policymakers who are discharging people from our jails in the name of keeping people free from the virus, yet are threatening to arrest. And there have been instances, not in Maine, of course, but there have been instances where people have been arrested. That's where I think it goes over the line. We're going to release prisoners, but arrest people for not social distancing. That's going too far.
All right. News from the judicial system this week. Lee Softly is going to be stepping down as Chief Justice of Maine Supreme Court. She will be the second longest serving Chief Justice in Maine history. And replacement, Phil, could take a while because the Senate must confirm the replacement. And right now they can't meet.
Right. And my understanding is that her last day is April 14th or 15th. When I was in the Senate, then Chief Justice Dan Wathen invited me to shadow a Superior Court judge, and who happened to be Lee Softly. And I just want to take this opportunity to publicly thank her for her extraordinary service to the state of Maine. She has been the epitome of what a jurist should be.
John?
I want to say the same thing. Lee Softly has done an outstanding job, and I think that Maine is going to be at a loss. But there are some great Supreme Court justices who can take the lead and become the Chief Justice. I do want to say that one of the things that she's going to do in leaving the bench is she's going to go to the UMaine Law School, which is in desperate need of leadership. And if someone can turn it around and make this a regional jewel of law schools in the country, it's Lee Softly, both in terms of fundraising and in terms of just star power for her being there. I applaud her, and I'm looking forward to great things for the University of Maine School of Law.
Bernie Sanders finally suspended his presidential campaign, though I'm not sure he's fully out because he hasn't released delegates or anything like that. But the question is, John, what will his supporters do now? what can Joe Biden inspire the youth vote that has been strong for Bernie Sanders?
Well, if those people who have been supporting Bernie Sanders don't already have incentives to support the Democratic nominee, I don't know what Joe Biden or any other candidate could do. I mean, we've had 4 years of Donald Trump. They've all opposed Donald Trump in terms of his issues and his agenda, and so they've gotten behind Bernie Sanders. I suspect that after a few tears, and they will eventually come back and support Joe Biden, because the stakes are for the Democrats, and those who support Democratic values are so very high that it's been just about anybody but Donald Trump that's going to get their votes. And by the way, Joe Biden's up by about 11 points nationally in the polls, so that should tell them a lot.
Well, Phil, in typical fashion, President Trump tweeted right away when Bernie dropped out saying, "Hey, Bernie Sanders supporters, we're more in tune with you than Joe Biden is. Come to us."
Well, here's how I break it down, Pat. I think, as John alluded to, there are people who were supporting Bernie Sanders who will vote for whoever the Democrat is to get rid of Trump. I think there's a fair amount of those, but I also believe there's a lot more Bernie Sanders supporters who are more idealistic of his socialist approach to government, who are just going to say, my vote doesn't matter, I'm taking a pass.
I've seen some of those online saying, "Hey, run as an independent. I'll vote for you even if it reelects Trump."
Yeah.
The Democrats are delaying their national convention by a month. Is this an opportunity, Phil, to just do away with these big spectacles that no one really seems to pay that much attention to anymore?
Well, it used to be, Pat, when you and I were younger men, the convention is where all the action was, and you really didn't know who the nominee was until the convention was over. Those days are long gone, and I wouldn't be surprised if the national conventions kind of give way to a formality of just issuing proclamations and declaring who the nominee is.
Well, John, the media and political types all love the party, but do we need those anymore?
I think you do. I think for the party faithful, for those people that work hard, who organize in each particular state, the delegates who work very hard to get elected, work very hard for their candidate, I do still think it matters. Now, whether it's still going to get the same kind of national attention by the press, I'm not sure, but it does matter to the rank and file members who go out, get elected as a state delegate, then a national delegate, and get to go to the convention. Sometimes it's a once in a lifetime thing these people get to do.
We talked last week about the difficulty for independent or unenrolled candidates to gather signatures right now, given the coronavirus crisis. However, Lisa Savage, the former Green Independent Party candidate, who's now identifying as an independent Green, turns in signatures to run for Senate as an unenrolled candidate, not a party candidate. I guess, John, what impact is she likely to have?
I don't think she will have much of an impact for herself, but I think bringing the more people she brings out to the polls who are on the far left of the spectrum mean more people for the Democratic candidate. I think with ranked choice voting, the more people that come out to support their individual candidate, it means a better chance for that Democratic nominee to win against Susan Collins in the fall.
Do you think that's right, Phil? This is a little bit of an extra challenge for Susan Collins to reach the 50% threshold in the fall?
Pat, I see it differently. I think the people who are going to support her are more likely to have been a Democrat voter. So I see them taking votes away from Sarah Gideon. But to John's deeper point, those people are going to go cast a ballot for things other than the U.S. Senate. They're going to elect other candidates for other offices, and that will favor the Democrats.
All right, let's wrap it up with our winners and losers in politics this week. John, we'll start with you.
Captain Crozier, who took his career and put that to the side and ahead of he basically put his sailors ahead of his career, and I think he's an American hero. I think that Maudley, the acting secretary of the Navy, is the loser of the week. I do want to give a great shout out though for Easter. God bless America, and we need faith now more than ever.
All right, thanks, John. Phil?
My loser of the week are the members of Congress who inserted all sorts of porculous spending in the bills that were meant to help American workers. They're my losers. Winners of the week of all the people in the banking profession who have worked overtime to process the loans so that people can keep their paychecks. They're our heroes this week.
And I have to say, this has to be the first time we've heard the word porculous on our television station. Phil, John, happy Easter to everybody. Thanks for being with us.
You.
News Center Maine is back after this.